Hello everyone. Thank you for joining today's masterclass. My name is Praveen and I will be presenting the session today. Before we start into this, um, hope my voice is audible and the display is well and clear. Just in case you have any difficulties in viewing the slide or with my audio, please do let me know through the chat so I can set it up properly. I will give you 60 seconds before I get into the presentation. So if you have any difficulties with the display or with the audio, please do let me know. So I don't see anything in the chat panel. Let's get into the uh, masterclass now. So today's session is going to be on availability, high availability, and disaster recovery. So, Password Manager Pro comes with a few disaster recovery capabilities, such as high availability, where you can have two servers, one installed as primary, the other one as secondary. And with MS SQL backend, we also have more options. So we will discuss about that in detail. Apart from that, we also have an option where you can schedule the backups from Password Manager and you can restore that in a disaster situation. And we also have break glass provisioning. So if any of the authentication or if something goes wrong with the domain controller which is set for the authentication, then the break glass can also be used in emergency situations. So this is going to be the topics which we are going to discuss today. If in case you have any questions, please raise them through the chat panel and I will answer them towards the end of the webinar. And once again, this webinar we have started on 12th of July and we are doing it every 2 weeks once on Thursday. All these sessions, the webinar series is recorded and it is available in the same place where you register for the webinars. And we have one last session which is going to happen by 15th of November, which is going to be on the MSP edition of Password Manager Pro. Thank you. So, as I mentioned earlier, the agenda for today is going to be high availability setup, failover service, database backup, and how to recover from those backup in case of any disaster, and emergency access, which is nothing but the break glass account. Okay. So the first one we are going to look is on the high availability with PostgreSQL database. As you guys all know, Postgres is a database which comes by default bundled in the product. Apart from that, Password Manager Pro also has a provision to use MS SQL database as backend. So we will see the high availability which comes with the PostgreSQL database. So this high availability functionality is only available with the Postgres database starting the premium or the enterprise edition of Password Manager Pro. Standard edition does not support it. All right. So here for the Postgres, we make use of a replication mechanism called RubyRep. So RubyRep is a program used to replicate the content between the primary and the secondary server. So in a typical scenario, you will have two servers. One will be the primary server. The other one would be the secondary server. Okay, and these two servers will be replicated. In other words, the Password Manager Pro application installed on these two servers will be replicated. So ideally, you will always connect to the secondary application server. Secondary application server, if the primary is up and running, it will automatically redirect you to the primary. Okay, so whenever you try to connect to the secondary service, it will redirect you to the primary if the primary is up and running. Just in case if the primary is not running, then the secondary will start responding. Okay, so users at any point of time should access the secondary application server, which will automatically redirect them to the primary. But to be on the safer end, we suggest you to give them both the primary and the secondary URL. The reason is, if secondary has the intelligence to redirect to the primary, if the primary goes down, it will start responding. But what happens if the secondary itself is down completely? So if the secondary itself is down completely, it will not be able to redirect to the primary. So in that scenario, it's better users access the primary directly. And here I will show you the architecture diagram. So this is in a normal mode. Okay, so users will access the primary with read write, and the secondary application server will give you read write access, which means you will be able to perform all the operations except the password resets. Okay, so from the secondary, the password reset cannot be scheduled. Cannot be done. Only from the primary it is possible. All right. So in a normal situation, this is going to be the right way to do it. Even if user connects to the secondary, it will automatically redirect them to the primary, and this entire communication is going to be secured. And the next scenario is, let's say if the link between the primary and the secondary goes down, what will happen? Yes, if that is the case, what users can access the primary separately and users can access the secondary separately if there is in a completely two different geographical locations. And whatever whatever changes which is made to the primary or to the secondary will be added to the database locally, and once the connection is back, all these settings will be replicated from the secondary to the primary and primary to the secondary. So it's going to be a dual it both will automatically copy over the changes when the WAN link is brought back up. Okay, so this is going to be a high availability scenario using Postgres SQL. So next one is going to be the high availability using MS SQL. So most of you should be knowing MS SQL database as backend is supported only with enterprise edition of Password Manager Pro. So if you want to use high availability with using MS SQL database, then you should be having enterprise edition. Premium or standard does not support it. Okay, so now with the how does this work? So you will have two application servers. I will just show them. So this is a typical MS SQL database for high availability. So you will have a primary server, application server, pointing to a SQL database, and you will also have a secondary application server pointing to the SQL database, and these two database servers will be replicated real time. Okay, and this communication between the primary, the master, and the slave is going to be over SSL, so it's going to be completely encrypted. In this case, if you try to connect to the primary, it will automatically respond, and if you connect to the secondary, it will respond. So typically, users can connect either to the primary or to the secondary separately, but the exception is users will not be able to perform the password reset on the secondary application server. Okay, so here for using MS SQL database as a backend, all right, and for the replication, we use the native SQL merge replication mechanism. So how the data gets replicated, it's going to be using the native SQL merge replication mechanism. So also you have to, when you're configuring the replication, you have to ensure you're using a domain account, and this domain account should be, I mean, in both the servers should have a common domain account, which is used by the Password Manager Pro service, and this domain account should have sysadmin privileges on the SQL server. Okay, only then the replication will work. And here the use case is pretty simple. Since users can access both the servers simultaneously, they can access any one of the server and it will work without any problem. And if the link goes down, the same way the changes which is made is going to be stored locally inside that particular database, and it will be replicated once the connection is back up and running. All right, so this is with high availability with MS SQL database as backend. The next one is going to be the failover with MS SQL cluster. Okay, so we the same thing. It is supported only in the enterprise edition of Password Manager Pro. Okay, where you can have two application servers pointing to a SQL database which is in cluster mode. Okay, so it can be either a active passive. The cluster can be anything of your need. Okay, so whatever cluster you have, just the application will connect to that cluster DB, and you are going to take care of the clustering completely over here. So we will not do anything on this part. So what we have on the application side is you will have a primary server and a secondary server. It's not primary server, you will have two application servers basically. All right, and this two application servers should be in the same subnet. So you cannot have it in different subnets. You should be having it in a same subnet, and in that subnet you should have one common IP. Apart from these two IPs, you should have a common IP, and for that common IP you can create a alias record. So what will happen is at any given point only one server will be up and running. Okay, so when this the failover service is configured, you will have two services. One is Password Manager Pro, the other one is called PMP modules. And the same is applicable to the standby server also, where you will have one Password Manager service and PMP modules. So in the primary server, the Password Manager Pro service will be running, the PMP modules will be running. In the secondary, Password Manager service will not be running. Instead, the PMP module service will be running. So what is this PMP modules? The PMP modules will monitor the Password Manager Pro service. So if the Password Manager Pro service goes down on the primary, automatically it will get started on the secondary using the PMP module service which is installed on the secondary. Okay, so that's how it works. And since we are specifying a common IP, so for this common IP, you can create a alias or a common name, a friendly name, using which you can access the application server. Okay, so with the failover service, you can access only one application server at a time, and the failover is going to be done automatically, where we will install an additional service called PMP modules, and that service is going to be used for monitoring the Password Manager Pro service, and if one service goes down, automatically the other one will be taken care. So this is how typically the failover service works with the SQL cluster database. And as I told you, on the database part, you can go for any kind of clustering mechanism. We do not have any issues. You can either go for active or active passive, whatever it is, there is no problem. All we need is we will just point to that cluster DB. So the database failover part can be taken care by your DBAs, okay, since they have all this installed in a cluster. So this is another mechanism available with Enterprise Edition. And the next one is going to be multiple application servers with SQL cluster. Okay, so this module is, if you see, it will not be available in our help documentation. though this is not officially released, but we have implemented this for a lot of our customers. So most of our, I have personally implemented this solution on multiple customer environment. Okay, so I will exactly tell you what will happen. You can have the PMP application servers in different data centers, in different locations. Okay, and you can have as many as you want. It's not one, two, or three. You can have multiple, and all these application servers will be connected to a SQL DB cluster, the same way which I explained in the failover service. So you can have your own clustering mechanism created, and you can have multiple nodes. This part can be either active, 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 passive, whatever you want. You can take care of it. Now, on the application side, all these application servers will be pointing to your SQL DB cluster, and you should all what you can have these application servers pointed in front of a load balancing solution. So that load balancer, what it will do is it will check. It will whenever you connect to the load balancer, it will automatically distribute the load among the application servers, and even if some application server goes down, the others one is going to be used. Okay, so there is practically no limitations for the number of application servers. I myself have installed 6 application servers for a customer, and it's working without any problem. All the functionalities will work as it is. The only thing is, out of these, if you, let's say you have 4 servers, the schedules can run only from one application server. Like if you have integrity check for verifying the passwords, it can run only from one server. And same way, if you have schedules to reset the passwords automatically, it can be run from only one server. With the other things, it will be disabled. The reason being, see, if all the 4 application servers are trying to do a verification at the same time, it's going to create multiple login attempts on your target machines or servers, databases, etc., which will lead to a account lockout. So that's the reason we are just triggering the schedules alone from one machine. Apart from that, this for this load balancer, again, you can have a common friendly name to access the application server, and there is no other restrictions with this module. And you can have the clustering part, as usual, your database administrators is going to help you with that. Okay, so all we need is just the cluster DB name, so we will point the applications to that name, and all the application servers will be pointing to that common name. All right, so this is the other replication mechanism. As I told you, this mechanism is not available in the help documentation. However, we can assist you in configuring this for you guys explicitly. All you need to do is just contact our support team. I will provide the support details towards the end of this session. All right, so this is the last model, which is again supported only in the enterprise edition of Password Manage Pro. So this completes the failover or the high availability part. Okay, so the first, I will just give you a quick recap. The first one is high availability with PostgreSQL, where you can have 2 application servers with the bundled database, and both the application servers, you can access only one application server at a time, and the password reset will happen only from the primary. The second model is going to be this high availability with MS SQL database, where you will have 2 application servers pointing to us, 2 SQL database servers, and these 2 database servers will be replicated real time using the SQL merge replication mechanism, and the reset can happen only from the primary. The third one is the failover service, where you will have 2 application servers on the same subnet, and this application server will be pointing to a cluster DB, and you can have a common IP created in the same subnet, and you have a friendly name created for it. You can access it. Here, the service will be automatically monitored. So if one application service goes down, the other one will take effect immediately. Right? And here in this case, there is no restrictions of password resets or schedules. And the last one is multiple application servers with the SQL cluster backend. So you can have as many application servers as you want, pointing to a load balancing solution, which is going to tell where the request has to be sent to the which server it has to be sent. And these application servers will be pointed to a common SQL DB cluster. And the DB part, you can take care, you can go for any type of clustering mechanism. So these are the different functionalities available in the product. So the next one is going to be the database backup functionality. Apart from having the high availability, in worst case, let's say both, or I mean if let's say you're using a PGSQL and both the servers are completely down, you're not able to access it. In that case, you can go for this database backup functionality, where you can have a complete backup to be taken on schedule basis and stored on a location wherever you want. So I will show you how this exactly looks in the product. So you have to come to the admin tab and you will type in database backup functionality. So you will see the place where it has to be backed up, and what is the time duration in which, like a day, every day you want to do it, twice or once, at starting which time. So you can do this, all this configuration here, and you can wish to choose how many backups it has to maintain. Also, the destination directory, you can give a network drive, a UNC path, or even a local drive. All we need is, you will be running the Password Manager Pro service with that account. That account should have full access to read and write on that particular drive, which has been uh, provided here. Okay, so this is a database backup functionality. Irrespective of database, we do take a backup and we store them. All right, so and all these backups are going to be in a encrypted zip format, so it cannot be simply restored at any installation. Okay, so they are going to be completely encrypted and it's going to be secure. Now, coming back to this, after the database backup, okay, so what is next? How do you recover the data from the database backup, right? So this zip file should be copied to the Password Manager Pro installation directory and the bin folder, from where you can execute the commands restoredb.bat space the file name space the encryption key. Okay, so even the database will be encrypted using the pmp underscore key dot key. So you have to specify that key along with it. So here I will show you what's the exact command, so you will get a better idea. So this is the one. So restore db.bat, the backup file name -p, and the location for the path. So you will be executing this command from a console or from a command prompt, right? So that command prompt or console should run with the account which has privileges to read both the backup file and the key file. Okay, only then it will allow you to restore the backup, or else it's going to be completely difficult. All right, and yes, so this is one way for doing it with the Postgres. And for MS SQL, all you need to do is use the native MS SQL functionality to restore the database. So you can just right click on the database, restore. You can select the database backup, which is going to be in a .bak format, and you will simply restore it. This is purely the same mechanism which is used by the MS SQL, which should be done using the Management Studio. Great. So that's for the recovering the database. The next one, and the last topic for today, is going to be the break fire call or the break glass account. So generally, or in the best practices, we suggest you to go for AD authentication or LDAP authentication with the TFA enabled for accessing the Password Manager Pro. But let's say your domain servers are down. or let's say your TFA is not responding properly, and none of your users are able to log in inside the application to retrieve the password because of the authentication failure. So in all these scenarios, we have something called a break glass account. Okay, a break glass account is nothing but an admin or a privileged admin can be promoted to be a super admin. Okay, so once he is promoted to be a super admin, he is going to have access to all the passwords in the system. So it's not recommended to assign the super admin privileges to everyone. Okay, so what you can do is, and once again, if it is assigned to a person and if his AD authentication is not working, it's going to fail. During the disaster situation, it's going to be difficult for you guys, right? So what we have to do is pretty simple. You have to create a local account inside Password Manager Pro, and you have to promote that account to be a super admin. Once that account is promoted to be a super admin, you will log in using the same account inside this application and make that account configure that account in such a way that no more admins can be promoted to be a super admin. So there is a restrictions for it. I will explain you how it's going to work. Okay, so basically you will create a local account which is a super admin account which has access to all the passwords in the tool, and the credentials of this super admin should be kept in a safe or in some place, very secure place, where if something goes wrong, you can just go to the safe, get the credentials, open, login inside this tool, and make use of it. So it's purely for firewall or break glass purposes. And yes, now going to the console. In general, here I will just go to the PMP web console. Give me a minute. So if you go, when you're trying to create an admin or a password admin, any admin let it be, by default, they will be able to see only the passwords which are being shared to them, right? But if you change this access scope to all the passwords in the system, that means that account is going to be promoted as a super admin. So you have to create a local account inside Password Manager Pro, promote that account to be a super admin. Once it's been promoted to be a super admin, you will log in inside this account using that account in the web console. So currently I have one account as a super admin called SA. So once this account has been created, I'm going to log in inside the Password Manager Pro application, click on this super admin, and I will say deny creation of super admin by admins. So this setting is applied now. If going forward, if I try to promote any admin to be a super admin, that functionality is not going to be possible. Okay, so that's how it will work. So after this is done, you will not be able to promote any more super admins inside the product. Okay, so that's the need of it. Fine. So, and as I told you, this credentials can be stored inside a safe, and during the firewall or the break glass durations, you can simply go, you can get the credentials and access the Password Manager Pro, which will ensure that you have access even during the disaster situations. All right. Yeah, so that's about it. If you have any questions, please do raise them to now, and I will be glad to answer them. I don't see any questions. So, just in case you have any questions or need any assistance, please do send an email to passwordmanagerpro-support at ManageEngine.com, and we will be glad to answer you the questions. Also, the recorded version of this webinar is going to be available in our website, the place where you registered for the masterclass. So you can just view them by early next week. And also we have the last session which is going to be on uh, the MSP edition of Password Manager Pro, which is scheduled on 15th of November. Okay, please do join it to know more about the MSP. And yeah, so that's about it. So thank you for your time. All right, and Just in case if you have any questions, drop us an email to passwordmanagerpro-support@manageengine.com and we will be glad to answer them. Once again, thank you so much, guys, for taking time and joining this webinar during your busy schedule. Hope it was informative. Have a nice day. Cheers then.